Hello and welcome. Governor Umara Zulum of Borno State has spoken about what he thinks could be responsible for the resurgence of the Boko Haram attacks now in some parts of Borno and the northeast axis, alleging that some influential politicians, members of the armed forces, and local communities were acting as informants and collaborators for the insurgents. The governor, who made the allegation in a televised interview, also criticized the current state of military equipment, noting that devoid of politics, Boko Haram could be wiped out in 6 months. According to him, the Nigerian government needs to prioritize security by investing in drones to combat insurgents, just as a campaign now for the fusion of both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches. While also stressing that military force alone cannot bring about a total end to insurgency, Zulum urged President Bola Tinubu to pay attention to ground-level intelligence and professional advice from the military. The governor vowed to deal ruthlessly with saboteurs frustrating the efforts of his administration in tackling insurgency in the state. Now, recall that Zulum had raised a land that Borno State had suffered a significant setback in its fight against terrorism, noting that the renewed attacks showed that the state was losing ground to the insurgents. So far, more than 50,000 people have been killed in the Boko Haram attacks, while millions have been displaced from their homes since 2009. Joining me now to discuss this further is retired Major General Chris Olukolade, who is the former Director of Defense Information when he was in the military. Thank you very much, for coming on the show, and thank you for making out time now to talk to us. What the governor of Borno State has said is not something new. It's something you have heard even when you were in service. But give me your take on it.
Listening to, by the way, thank you very much for this opportunity to make a comment on that very disturbing situation as narrated by His Excellency. And listening to Governor Zulum, one can really understand his plight, his concerns. One thing one cannot take away from Governor Zulum is his passion in tackling the insecurity, bedeviling not just the state but the nation. And from the way he has, made his points, they are very clear, and they demonstrate a lot of passion. That's what we expect of leaders. That notwithstanding, there are other aspects of that remark that should give some concern. Concern both for the authorities to address the system, but also concern for the implications of those remarks he has made, and the way they were presented. They definitely have some implications for national security, which is another angle to his presentation.
Yeah. Let's talk about those angles that have to do with security, that have implication now, security implications for the country. Could you shed more light on that?
Yeah, like I said, the passion is commendable, and naturally nobody will be happy with what we are facing. But if we are to look at the implications of the statement of His Excellency, with due respect, they were looking exuberant, and I would rather say eccentric with the way they were conveyed, considering the privileges he has to interact with the federal government and the authorities of the military. Now, going to the extent he made to so publicly denigrate the position of the armed forces can be very disturbing and has a lot of implications. For instance, it undermines national security in the sense that publicly declaring that Boko Haram has more sophistication and capacity than the nation's military, apart from it being not
certainly can be correct.
It can be correct, but it also has implications on morale and national security, and this could be very, very disturbing to the morale of troops. I know we have the burden of time for this program. Otherwise, I would have pointed attention to previous engagements with His Excellency, which always point at this direction of wanting to run down the capacity of our military. It's not a thing to be encouraged. And besides, the confidentiality and protocol of relating with the system has been seriously breached here. Like I said, His Excellency has the access that should not warrant the level of remarks he was making. And it has the risk of causing public mistrust or loss of trust in our armed forces, which ordinarily I don't expect that to be his intention, but that's what it's turning out to be with those remarks. And it has effect on our operational efficiency and the public confidence in the armed forces. This is one of such trends of unnecessary politicization of our security matters, and that's what this has turned out to be, and it could be very disturbing, like I said. Many times I've had opportunity to commend officers who stomach some of the remarks of His Excellency. I've seen him interact with officers in the field and literally dress them down, even in front of their troops, make them look as if they are not working. This is not the first time, and I think those tendencies should be discounted as. His Excellency certainly has access, but should avoid unnecessary politicization and demoralization of our troops. That's why I said some of these look eccentric, and if we must criticize, the criticism should be constructive. Like his demand that the military be equipped is certainly not new, and a lot of presentations are done by friendly quarters, and I think the authorities are conversant with it. So if it is to be presented, it should be presented in appropriate circles, not in public glare to run down whatever. And it could have a sorry
to interject. Sorry to interject, but okay. The governor, of course, is certainly not a military officer. He's not a military man. But when you hear him now making, operational suggestions, military operational suggestions now, like saying that, look, drones should be used and all of that, it tends to give the impression that those in charge of the military probably don't understand the problem better than he does. What do you make of such operational suggestions that he's giving, saying that, look, drones should be used, this is what should be used, this is how it should be done, and all of that?
Well, it's easier said than done. War is not ball game, and definitely officers who face the situation understand what is appropriate. Yeah, he can give. That's why I say he will even help himself and help the system by giving these remarks. Some of the remarks he made are actually already noted by officers, and they are making the case in appropriate quarters without causing unnecessary public sentiment and attention. Anybody can think that war is like film, but being in the front itself is a different ball game. And like I said, running down whatever is in place at the moment is not always the best approach. You mentioned earlier in the introducing that this is not the first time one is confronting this situation. I want to recall that a similar statement was made by the President, Vice President, sometimes was it 2014 or thereabout. Very similar in the sense that he said that the Boko Harams were more motivated than the Nigerian armed forces. Officially I had to respond to that. The fact that one is dealing with unconventional or true people who don't have any normalcy to follow in using the weapons does not mean that we should be comparing them with a well-trained and well-organized system. By now, I'm sure His Excellency knows the difference by virtue of his position as Vice President of the Federal Republic. That's one thing that politicization of these issues can lead to, especially when one is not, facing it squarely. And sometimes one can save himself from this tendency by speaking directly to the authority, where they can correct you, they can give you a clearer picture of the situation than you get from speaking to the public and making some impression. I want to refrain from appearing to be, indicting His Excellency, but I don't think it is proper to vilify our nation's military publicly and before the international audience. It is not the best, and I will encourage politicians as much as possible to refrain from that tendency. The fact that they cannot respond does not mean that the point is taken or it is helping the situation.
Does it bother you, for instance, the allegation he made? Of course, nothing new, and you're quite right. When the current vice president was governor of that state, he made the same allegation as well, that Boko Haram has informants within the military and that some military personnel may be working for them. Yeah,
certainly, I will be, very incorrect if I wholesale, in a wholesale fashion, just dismiss that as untrue. Indeed, there are such indications, but the system knows how to deal with it. And indeed, that should not, where I agree with His Excellency that no patriot should be happy at such tendencies. But even if the reality is there, management of it so that it does not end up compounding our national security issues is what I think we should consider. And if we even look at previous instances, we have seen a lot of trial of personnel who were found in this tendency. The system does not condone it, and it is not proper to present a situation where it appears that the system is enjoying it. No, it's not enjoying it. And I'm glad you also said politicians. Maybe you can deal with fellow politicians. They know how to communicate to themselves, but not to just do a wholesale situation to rubbish ongoing, And if he has very clear information in that respect, like he promised to deal ruthlessly, welcome. But if he has such, vital information about the military system, he should engage where it is proper with appropriate authorities.
But General, what do you think could be responsible for this resurgence we are seeing? Resurgence of Boko Haram and ISWAP. I mean, we're seeing more attacks now, not just in Nigeria anyway, we're seeing them in Benin. What exactly could be responsible? Could this have to do with, say, for instance, the decision of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to pull out of ECOWAS, and as well as Niger as well pulling out of the MNJTF as well?
I don't want to swallow this whole hook, line, and sinker, but definitely it's a trend that, like you have rightly observed, is beyond Nigeria. And what should be of interest to us is to how to curtail it at this side of the divide. And I also believe that they want to just prove a point. Perhaps they have just landed or be able to acquire some wherewithal to dare the system. And it's left for us in the system to prove them wrong. It is not to give them the impression that they can have their way. I think that the response so far, or the understanding that their latest attacks are provoked, should position us to repel it and ensure that their idea does not stay. One thing I've noted in this latest angle is that it is not like the previous where they try to hold ground. This time they have not been able to hold down to any territory. So each attempt has been duly repelled, and they've not been able to discomfit our system at all. And I believe that with time, with the ongoing reorganization and approach to curtail it, they're definitely going to get a bloody nose this time around.
Finally, General, do you think we can end this insurgency? As the governor said, that in 6 months it can be ended, that Boko Haram can be wiped out.
Well, let every hand be on deck. Where experience has proved that putting a timeline on this has not been very helpful. But I think our target should be to even end it wholesale. There's always the belief, particularly among the terrorists themselves, they believe that it will never end and they will ensure it doesn't end. But we have seen instances where terrorists have been really curtailed to a zero level. If I point at instances such as Sri Lanka, the approach may be different, but they achieved it. I also believe that somehow we can achieve it. We're already in that direction. Someday, we'll be able to curtail the tendency of terrorism and insurgency, as they call it.
All right. General Olukolade, thank you very much, sir, for coming on the show, and thanks for talking to us.
Thank you for this privilege, and I wish you all the best in this station.
Thank you very much, sir. I will take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us, don't go away. Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal. How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On Deji 360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
Deji 360, dissecting the issues.